You're listening to Taboo Transmission, unfiltered conversations on grief, awakening, and shadow work. I'm your host, Holly Faye. I don't have the answers, but I've lived the questions. Every episode, I share raw stories, unspoken truths, and the messy middle of rebuilding a life that actually fits. This isn't performative healing, it's transmission. Let's get into it. Hello, welcome back to the Taboo Transmission podcast. We have Ep.4 here on recognizing and trusting the signs. This was a topic that actually came about through me doing this little mini challenge that I actually ended up ending before I was planning on ending the challenge. But it was to talk on my Instagram stories for 1 minute or one slide per day. And this was one of the questions that came out of doing that, which was how to actually how to actually trust the signs and not just think that they're a coincidence or just spiral into doubt. And I think that's such a good question. It warrants a whole episode because I I definitely had to practice, and it took some time, honestly, because and even still, I still notice that it happens when I'll see a sign or hear one or whatever it is, and then, my first initial reaction is that it is a sign, and then if you give me, some time alone, I will just be like, "Well, that could have been a coincidence." My logical mind will just start to tear it apart, and I think that's very human. It's very common. We're kind of put into this world where we're kind of removed from our intuition. Like, we have so many distractions, so much noise coming at us all the time, from notifications on your phone to your work email to your team's chat messages to people in your house needing you or just all these things. We're just so distracted most of the day by so many just external things that it can be hard to, one, even just be open to them landing at all. And then two, it can be hard to just trust that it's an actual sign and not try to just logic the shit out of it. Anyway, because I mean, honestly, it's tricky. Like, when you're feeling something real but can't see it, like that can mess with you when you're experiencing something that can't be seen or really understood by probably anyone other than you. Because that's what I've found is that signs come so specifically. Sorry, I just got a notification pop up, speaking of distractions, saying that my internet connection is unstable. So now I am not entirely sure that this is going to record properly, but it looks like we're still going. I'm going to hope for the best. Yeah. If I get to the end of this and I don't have any audio, I may scream. Anyway, carrying on. Yeah, so when you're feeling something or experiencing something that you can't see it, then that can be tricky to not spiral into am I insane? Because that's definitely where I found myself going all the time. I'd first get a sign and I'd feel so validated, but then if you gave me 2 minutes with my thoughts, I would just spiral into thinking that I made it all up and I must be crazy or I must be the real kind of insane. But something that helped me so much with this was honestly something that my boyfriend said to me. It was actually after I'd had this really, really terrible experience with a medium. And instead of checking in with myself or any of the things that I felt or knew to be true, I just kind of spiraled off on what she had said to me, which was pretty much the opposite of everything that I had thought up until that point. So I got back into oh my God, I made up everything in my imagination. I'm crazy. Like, this is, I don't know. I was ready to just stop everything It was a really bad one. It was actually at the beginning of this year. It was, like, a week or 2 before my birthday, and I'm thinking, like, I'm gonna sign up for this thing, and it's gonna be great. I'm gonna have all this clarity. I'm like, "Yeah, let's do that right before my birthday, before, like, my, next year." And it did the complete opposite. Like, I was down and out for, like, 2 months, and yeah, like, I was just beside myself because I was taking everything that this woman had said to me as, like, fact and just ignoring all the things that I had felt inside, anything that I, like, just had really deeply resonated with me. Like, I just, like, threw it all away and was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm wrong. She's right. She's the professional." And, like, what am I? Just delusional, apparently? I was, like, ready to, like, throw away my card decks. I was, like, done with anything spiritual. I was gonna, like, stop writing the book that I'm writing. Like, I was like, "Well, if none of it's real, then I'm done." So I was in a bad, bad place. But something that he said to me really, really helped, like, shift me out of it and, like, at least able to, like, begin to do life again. Because like, I'm not even kidding, this appointment was, like, debilitating. I took everything that she said to heart and, like, as truth. This is a sidebar, but, like, when it comes to mediums or, like, people that are, like, spiritual, like, authority figure in the space, I think it's so crucial to remember that everything is subject to interpretation, and they may not interpret something the same way that you do, but also they, like, don't know everything about you and your life. Even if they, like, have psychic abilities, they still don't know every little thing about you. And I don't think that that's how psychic gifts work. I've experienced some of them myself, and, like, I can't just, like, turn it on. I don't know. Maybe I can, I don't know. But, like, I don't think it's not, like, all-knowing. Like, they're not God, so there's that. But what he had said to me is that you can't make yourself feel something that you don't. And, like, that's so true. You can deny that you feel something that you feel. You can say you feel something that you don't feel, but, like, actually feeling it, like, you can't make yourself feel something that you just don't. Like, and if you think about that, like, when it comes to, like, relationships or something, like, if you don't feel a certain way about someone, you can't just, like, make yourself feel it. Right. It does not work. Yeah, and that kinda shifted me back to, like, what was true for me, and the facts were that it was things that I had felt, and no one can really take that away. Like, that's a feeling, it's real. Whether the source of the feeling, like, maybe that's up for debate, but, like, the actual feeling itself can't really be debated. I mean, you can go ahead and try, but, like, go ahead and tell me I felt something I didn't, or that I don't feel something I do. It's just, okay, cool. It's like saying, like, I have blue hair. Like, all right, nice. I don't. So that's important to note, and that's something that I think of often when I want to doubt spiral. And yeah, it kind of helps pull me back in. He's good for stuff like that. So how do signs show up? And this is such a broad question. Like, they can show up so differently for everyone. Like, it really depends. I think that signs come to you in the very specific way that you would receive them. And I do think that it's so to someone else on the outside, yeah, they could just be like, that's a coincidence. But I think when you receive a sign, whether it be through music, sensations like feeling wind or like tingles in your legs or your, I don't know, your body in some way, not to be dirty, but or you hear a voice or something in nature or words that people say, anything like that. When you receive a sign and however it comes to you, and your first instinct is that it's a sign or that like it's a past loved one that's like if that's your first thought, go with that. I think that that is what is true because it's before your logical mind can interrupt it. It's before you can go in there and analyze everything. And we're very like analytical creatures. Our brains are just wired that way. It's like instinctive, it's like survivalist. Like we just analyze information and that's just human. But I think if your gut reaction like that, that's kind of like coming from your soul. And like granted, this is just what I have kind of gathered from things I've read, things I've experienced, listening to lots of podcasts and like hearing other people's stories and experiences. Is this fact? No, but this is just where I'm at with it. I think that your first instinct or if your first thought is that it came from a past loved one or God or that it's just a sign or something significant in what seems to be an ordinary experience, like, go with that before you allow your mind to tear it up. But yeah, so I can give some examples, I guess, of some signs that I've received, even just in doing the week that I launched this podcast, actually, I received so many of them. It was ridiculous. For example, like 2 days, I think it was 2 days before this podcast was supposed to launch. I normally go on a walk with my dog on my lunch break. Um, or like maybe my 15-minute like mid-morning break, somewhere between like 10 and 12, I normally go for a walk with my dog. And normally I call my mom when I'm on my walk. But for some reason this day I didn't call her right away. I thought about it, but I just didn't. My neighbor actually ended up walking by and she like kind of slowed down and stopped, asked me how I was doing, and then like we just ended up walking together and getting into like this super deep talk that was like so unexpected, but the outcome of that talk and that walk and talk was that she basically like validated something for me that I had been actually seeking validation on for like over a year, hence the stinking mediums. Like I went to 3 and by the 3rd one I was like, okay, I'm done trying to find this answer. I'm just gonna let it go. Because I'm just not gonna get what I'm looking for, and, like, I just was sick of putting myself through it, honestly. I let it go. And then after I had done that, through our talk that happened super, like, organically, she ended up, like, validating the thing that I was looking for validation on. Because my neighbor also does, like, psychic readings, and I just thought that was cool. And I realized, like, in the middle of, like, standing there in the street, like, I was like, "Oh, wow. There it is." After I stopped looking for it, it showed up. And I think that's something too, is like when I mean, sometimes I've 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 asked for signs. Sometimes they happen. Sometimes I receive them like right away, like within like a couple hours. Sometimes it's later than that. Sometimes I get the sign and I didn't even realize it until later when more things have unfolded that like, oh, that was probably important. I think they show up when something bigger wants us to pay attention. Another thing that happened too, which is kinda nuts, like, I guess I don't know if this is really a sign or just like, I don't know, weird psychic share, I guess. But, like, so my mom has always been, like, pretty psychic or spiritual, both actually, and it used to, like, freak me out. I actually wanted kinda nothing to do with it most of my life. I used to roll my eyes so hard at her and like, joke is on me because she became my, like, anchor during going through, like, a spiritual awakening. Because I was like, "She's gonna get this, thank God." But, like yeah. But anyway, also on that walk, because I, again, thought about calling my mom on my walk back to my house, and I didn't, but then I was, like, looking down at my feet walking, and I, for some reason, just had a feeling like, "She's gonna see this," in her mind. I know that sounds kinda wild, but, like, I just had this moment of, like, "My mom's gonna see this image," and later on, when I finally did talk to her on the phone, she did. She told me that she had saw me, like, on a walk, and I was like, "I knew that you were going to. I don't know why, I just did." And she also had the feeling of, like, calling me around that time that we normally talk, and she felt like she just shouldn't for some reason. Yeah, that's, like, very I don't know, I guess synchronistic and I guess a little vague and confusing because I'm not telling you exactly what was validated, but, in time. But it was, like, an important thing for me because I was about to launch this podcast. I was super scared about doing that in the first place. I was afraid of, like, how people were gonna see me, how much I should say. Should I really share my story, or should I just kinda make this more, broad on, like, spiritual topics and, like, not really share my own personal experience? Because like, I was struggling with, like, not wanting to be seen as I talked about in the last episode, but that was, like, a really important thing to receive that sign, and yeah, it seemed like just an ordinary, regular thing, like, just a walk on a sunny day with my neighbor and my dog, and, like, I didn't call my mom when I normally do. Like, you could just say that and be like, "Okay, coincidence." And sure, it looks like it, but, like, the feeling, I knew that it was all for a reason. I knew that it was coming from, like, a higher power and was like, this it felt like what I needed. So, like, that's how I'm taking it as a sign because it got me to do the thing that I needed to do and wanted to do anyway, but, like, it just I don't know, it helped me get there. And then another thing too was so signs for me come through music probably the most. I think that's the way that I see them. Well, numbers and music, I would say both of those things, which makes sense for me because 1, I'm a banker by day and I look at a lot of numbers. So like I'm very immersed in numbers. And then music's always been just a huge part of my life. So those are 2 ways to, like, really reach me with the signs, but I also would, like, pick up on a word too. Like, sometimes I'll hear, like, a word or a phrase that, like, catches my attention, and that's usually how the music signs get my attention in the first place anyway, because it could be a song that I've heard, like, a bunch of times, like, before, and then for whatever reason, I pick up on that, like, one line in it. Typically, it's, like, answering what is going on in my head, like, the questions I'm thinking or something I'm, like, just wrestling with in my brain, and, like, the song will just kinda answer it or, like, be completely, like, on point with what I'm thinking, and but weirdly enough, again, I think this was the day that my podcast launched. Yeah. I was just hanging out in my room listening to music. It was an MGK song that was, like, the live performance, and I hadn't actually seen the music video of the live performance before, but and it was the song called Twin Flame, and I had launched my podcast where I, like, talked about like, it was the beginning story of, figuring out that I'm, like, on a twin flame journey or whatever the heck you wanna call it, I don't know. I feel like everything as a journey sounds so annoying. I don't know, but I guess that is what it is. Anyway, but it was, like, when I first, it was the start of it, and then that song was on, but the thing that really got to me was, like, looking at the scenery, and it was, like, this place that it resembled a lot of this place that I had imagined in my mind when I used to try, like, this, like, guided meditation to, like, your safe space or something, I guess, and mine was, like, going down a path in the forest and, like, coming to, like, a stone wall that had, like, a door that was, like, a portal. Like, my late twin flame would open the door and, like, be standing there wearing a white t-shirt, and he'd, like, welcome me in, and, like, inside was, like, this lush green field with a willow tree, like, on the edge of a lagoon, and, like, when I'm, like, looking at this music video, it's, like, MGK's wearing, like, this white t-shirt, he's underneath a willow tree, and I was just like, "Whoa, what are the odds of that?" I don't know, it just felt more significant to me because it had a lot more meaning for me than, like, I guess on the surface of what it was, just him just doing a live performance, wearing a white t-shirt. Lots of people wear white t-shirts, like, doesn't mean it's special, but that's what my brain would do to me, but, like, the initial feeling was, like, awe, like, I was just like, "Wow, that's really cool," and, like, the feeling that I had was, like I don't know, just I felt like I was on the right path. I did, like, the right step by launching my podcast, telling the story, even though I had so many thoughts about telling the story. So, like, it's stuff like that that I find to be actual signs where, yeah, it doesn't look like much. And I don't think that they often come very loud. I think they are more subtle. Like, the night that I met my boyfriend, there were 2 things, like and it were words, like, it was words that just stood out to me that, like, really caught my attention. Like, for the first thing, so both of our names start with H, and, like, that was the first thing he said to me was that we're rare. Like, and I know that that sounds nuts to even think that's something, but, like, just the fact that he said we're rare caught my attention because, like, I don't know, I had been told, like, or read up, I don't know what's true about it, but, like, some people say that twin flames are super rare, and some people say that everyone has one. I don't know which is which, but at the time I was believing it was rare, and the fact that he said that we're rare stood out to me. And then the other thing that he said that night was it was weird because the words had been echoing in my head for weeks before I met him. Like, I kept hearing "cross the finish line" in my head, and this was from, a reading that I did. It wasn't really like a medium type reading. It was more like a soul reading, I think, like, mostly with, like, astrology, I don't know. Anyway, I did one of those. That one actually wasn't a bad experience, but in that I was told that, like, I had the ability to cross the finish line in this lifetime. Those that was what was said. And then for whatever reason, 2 weeks before I met my boyfriend, I kept hearing "cross the finish line" in my head, just that part, not knowing really, like, why. Why do I keep just, like, circling back to this? I'm not really sure. I didn't really give it a whole lot of thought, I just kept hearing it, that's it. And then when we were, like, at the end of the night, he said, like, because I, like, disclosed all the reasons why I'm a walking red flag or was a walking red flag at the time that we met. Because yeah, there were so many reasons, and one of them being, like, that I'd been engaged, like, 3 times, and he'd asked me if I had ever been married, and I was like, "No, just engaged 3 times." I'm like, "Apparently I just wanna be invited. I can't come. I just wanna be asked." But anyway, what he said was like, "That's alright. You just didn't cross the finish line yet." And, like, it stunned me, the fact that he used those words, and that happens a lot, like, it'll be, like, something that someone says is, like I pick up on it because 'cause I'm like, "Oh my god," like, "I've been thinking that," or I've been hearing that," or "That was part of this thing." Actually, I do have another example of, like, word where it came through words. I still haven't figured out what to call him. What should we just say late twin flame? I don't know, that sounds weird. Whatever. So, I was looking for things in my mother's house, like, from high school. What I was really looking for was, like, a letter or like a note or something from him in his handwriting was specifically what I wanted because I had a dream. Oh yeah, dreams are another way that signs come through. That's a huge one, actually. But I had a dream that he wrote me something, and then when I was reading it, like, 'cause it was a dream, I looked at it and it was my mom's handwriting. I was like, "Wait, this isn't his handwriting." And then in the dream, I was like, "I don't remember what his handwriting looks like." And then I spiraled, and then I had to tear my mom's house apart and find something. And the only things that I found were, like, these little, like, South Park drawing things, and, like, he joked and wrote, like, the names of our future children on them, and one of them was Jebediah. And when I was at someone's house and, like, meeting their new baby, and they had, like, a theme going of J names, but the youngest that had been born didn't get a J name because they kinda ran out, and but then he joked about one of the names that he was going to name the kid, which and he said Jebediah, and I was like, "What?" And I had just found those. I had just found those little drawings that had that written on it, like, a couple days before that. So, it's kinda like the timing and then, like, what stands out, and, like, honestly, we could all be super wrong about it. It could just be coincidence, but I mean, it's I don't know, like, so much more magical when you believe that, like it's more than that. And, like, if it feels like more than that, take it. It's hard to do, but what would taking it feel like? Would that feel better or worse? That's something to ask yourself, I suppose. And another part too on this topic that I hear a lot in, like, the spiritual space and, like, I don't know, people saying that, like, you really need to be, like, grounded in order to receive the signs. And, like, I think to a point that that could be true. But I also have to kinda acknowledge the fact that, sometimes the signs often came when I was, like, in a spiral. Like, it was almost like a pattern interrupt. I always hear that you have to be, like, emotionally regulated. Like, the first time that I ever felt a sign, I was crying. That's not regulated. So, I don't know. I don't know exactly what is true about that. Maybe both things are true. I don't really know. Maybe the signs could come through from this specific soul because of, like, the connection that we had. Maybe that makes it not have to follow the other rules. I don't know. Because a lot of times I wasn't very regulated or grounded. Sometimes I was blocking the very things I was seeking by being extremely dysregulated and ungrounding. I feel like when I was in, like, anxiety and doubt spirals about everything being real, then I would be left in that until I got myself out of that. But when I was spiraling about the dream I had that disturbed me and, like, pacing my house, being a, like, complete lunatic, that didn't deter from, like, a voice of reason being heard to, like, help me stop doing that. I don't know. I'm not really sure what I think on that, on whether or not you need to be in this, like, specific state. I do think being grounded is important when learning to discern, like, what is yours and what isn't. I think that that is where it's pretty critical because, like, you kinda have to learn, like, your own body's response and signals in order to, like, be able to interpret them elsewhere. This is so tricky. How do I even say this? For example, I have noticed now, like, when something feels super true or real or, like, aligned or worth paying attention to, I will feel tingles in my legs that don't quite feel like chills. Like, it's close to chills, but it's not. Like, I'm not actually cold. It's a different feeling. And that's not something that I ever really picked up on before or could, like, I didn't really notice that ever before until I started moving my body, like doing yoga, getting more in touch with my body, I guess, mostly out of pure desperation, but it still worked. So there's that. And also, more recently, I've kind of come to learn that, like, being grounded plays a critical role in me being able to read the language of the different souls. Like, not that I'm, like, talking to a whole bunch of dead people, but, like, I guess I have to do examples because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. So, like, when it's my late twin flame, it's always, like, cool wind on, like, my cheek or, like, right eye area. Like, it's always in the same place. That's like the signal of, like, "Hey, it's me." That's how I take it anyway, because it only happens when, like, I feel his presence. Yeah. That's when that happens. But then my spirit guide, I'll feel, like, tingles on my right arm, like, on my right forearm. And, like, I don't typically feel that ever other than when I feel his presence. I feel like that just comes with time and practice and takes a while to get to, because, like, that was new to me even, like, this year. That happened, like, maybe a couple months ago, where I kinda realized that, like, my best friend who, like, passed away when I was in high school, like, probably has been with me all along, and I didn't know how to read the language of his soul. But then once I started to pick up on certain, like, patterns and things like that, like, then I started to recognize that, like, "Oh, he's been with me." And then I felt bad for not knowing it, but you don't know what you don't know until you know. So it's fine. I don't think anyone gets upset. Like I don't think our spirit guides or I don't think they get upset. Maybe frustrated. Mine might get a little frustrated because I don't listen very well. I'm working on it. I think the main thing is just to try not to silence yourself, really, when your first instinct is like that it was your past loved one or God or something significant, whatever that is. If it felt meaningful to you, I would try just to take that and not try to like understand everything about it. That's something that's been so hard for me because I like to understand everything. I have an insatiable thirst for knowledge, and that tends to lead to me being in my own way a lot. But it also has its benefits, but sometimes it's not so beneficial. I guess my question to you is like what signs have you been seeing but brushing off? Yeah, just recognizing like the little things that you do that only you do. I feel like when something really does need your attention, like a sign is being sent to you that you need to pay attention to, like it'll come through something that you would notice because you do it often or you're familiar with what it is. Like I used to look up angel numbers whenever I would see them. I would like do a Google search of like angel number, whatever it was, meaning. I don't do this anymore because it doesn't work anymore because like AI is like integrated into everything. And so it's in Google too. So it's going to just give me the same list every time. But like it used to change. So like when I used to do that, it's like depending on like the order rankings or whatever on Google, the messages would be different. And so I would take whatever stood out to me as my message. And that's just something that I would do. Like one day I saw a ridiculous amount. Like, I saw, like it started at, like, 4:44 in the morning. Like, I woke up at 4:44 AM, and then I proceeded to see, like, every angel number on the hour until, like, 4:44 PM, and I was like, "What in the heck is going on here?" It took me until seeing, 3:33 PM to do my normal little Google search because I hadn't done that. My little lights just shut off. Mickey needs attention. But yeah, so when I looked up the one at 3:33, I like ended up on this blog because sometimes I would go to those if like the first Google page like nothing really stood out like but maybe like a link would I'd click on it, go to it. And that's what happened that day and like for whatever reason I like scrolled down to like the twin flame meaning, which I always just brushed off and never looked at before because I thought that that was, like, bullshit. I didn't think twin flames were anything. I thought that that was literally just a cult. That's all I thought about it. So I was like, "Meh, don't need that. Don't want, like, any of these." But for whatever reason that day, like, that one stood out to me, and then it got me thinking, like, "Wait, what is this?" So then I started, like, looking up that. Lo and behold, I, like, come across an article that, like, describes that, like, crazy euphoric, like, chest feeling that I described in the previous episode. And I was like, "Oh, wow. That's actually how I ended up learning about that." Was from repeated angel numbers, like, repeating numbers and, like, seeing them from, like, 4:44 AM to 4:44 PM, and then, like, finally, like, doing the thing I normally do. Which maybe that's why I saw so many, I don't know, because like, I was busy that day too, so I didn't look up the first one, and I wasn't gonna Google at 4:44 in the morning. I was just like, "Why am I awake? This is too soon." So, yeah, I don't know, but, like, then I ended up on that article, and it's like, "Oh, this is absolutely what I was supposed to find because like, it put into words what I couldn't describe. And then later on, actually, I was, like, standing in my kitchen doorway, and, like, I was looking out into my sunroom and it was nighttime and like I couldn't see him because like I don't really like have like clear, I guess, or, like, I don't see dead people, not, like, physically in front of me. Maybe in a dream or, like, in my mind's eye or something, like, but I don't like, see or whatever, like, I don't that doesn't happen. But, I felt like I was looking directly at him even though I couldn't see him. And then I asked, like, 'cause after finding that article, like, explaining, like, what twin flames were, and, like, I came across an article that says, like, "What happens when my twin flame dies?" Or, like, "My twin" it was called "Twin flame died, now what?" Something like that. And it just was, like I was shook because I was like, "Holy crap," like, I could not explain this, but, like, this is now explaining this. And, like, I felt like I was looking directly at him, and I was like, is this what you've been trying to tell me? Are we twin flames?" And then immediately, I felt that feeling in my chest, so, like, I took that as, like, a yes, because like, I don't know, like, that feeling doesn't happen. It's happened a few times in my life, I can recall them all. So, it's pretty rare. It takes practice, it's hard to silence the doubt, but I think you know, you 'cause your first reaction is what it is. So, like, that's, like, your soul knowing that it is significant, and ordinary moments can be significant all the time. So, I think I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm working on creating some kind of form for people to share if you have an experience or a story to share. Like, I would like to start bringing, like, guests on. I also wanna try and reach out to, like, other guests, like, in the spiritual space so we can, like, probe them with lots of questions because I guess if we can partly be investigators on here. But, yeah, so I'm gonna try to create something where you guys can contribute to, like, your own, like, taboo transmissions if you have them and wanna share or have a crazy story or an experience. So stay tuned for that. I'll hopefully have that put together very soon. And, yeah, I think I think that's it for now. But if you like this episode, if you've been liking this podcast in general, I guess, I would like to ask for you to maybe give a rating or review or subscribe, follow the show. I don't know, all the things, call to actions. I'm new. I'm like, let me like solicit this visibility, even though I'm still cringing from having visibility, but it's good for me. So I guess if you like it, please like it with the thumbs up button. Okay, I'm done. All right. Thank you. Goodbye. See you on the next one.